Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Rock and Roll Union Streamcast. Guys, thank you so much for spending some time with us tonight. We're being joined by Mason Mefal Fest. Mason and his dad are standing by. They're going to be with us very shortly. Wanted to say a big shout out to our sponsors, Rosenfeld Dental Associates, located at 1095 Inman Avenue in Edison, New Jersey. Go rock your smile with the Rock Doc. David Rosenfeld, nominated one of the top dentists for 2021 in New Jersey. Mention the Rock and Roll Union or CT upon booking that first appointment, and they'll hook you up with a great discount. Guys, it's been I think it was last week that we had a little interruption in the middle of our broadcast. Once again, I'm doing this from my front porch. So if you guys didn't see it, it was hilarious. I live across the street from a firehouse. So if you guys hear the alarm goes off, don't be alarmed. It's just the firehouse across the street. Also, another thing that I wanted to touch base on with you guys is this Friday night. Really excited for it. The Rock and Roll Union annual Summer Bash will be this year. We'll be going to Bar 13 in Wilmington, Delaware. We'll be joined by Psychedelic Elders, Baba Boom out of New York City, Hammer Sheep, and Moonroof. If you haven't checked out any of these bands, man, really, really great bands to enjoy. Capping off the evening is going to be Hammer Sheep, doing their list of metal covers and favorites. And last year for the Summer Bash, I got up and fronted Hammer Sheep for a tune. It looks like it's going to be going that way. So you might want to get there. Tickets are only $10, so it's a cheap night out. Once again, I wanted to introduce a friend of mine who's been with us for quite some time now, a couple of years now. Let me unmute his mic here. And Mason and his dad, Rick, are with us. Guys, welcome. Thank you for spending some time with us tonight.
Thank you, and wow, thank you for having us.
Man, so for anybody who has missed the podcast in the past that you guys were part of, is there any chance, Rick, that you could kind of give us a little bit of a rundown on what got Mason Mefal Fest started and the whole story behind it?
In 2016, the year before my daughter graduated, we took a family trip, and we made an adventure. We went and seen 455 bands in 1 year.
Wow.
We switched from Gillette Hospital to Gillette Lifetime because of Mason's age. And they did a story about Mason that was called 365 Days, or 500 bands at 365 days. And the Star and Tribune ran an article. And the day after that, a gentleman from the Minnesota metal scene, a promoter, NYDM guy, reached out to Mason and wanted Mason to come out to all his shows that he possibly could. And we got to know a lot of the bands. And then Mason's big brother, we call him, invited us to the Minnesota Metal Awards. When we got there, 89 bands brought CDs and shirts for Mason and treated us like family, of course. Um, Mason got sick, went in the hospital. Um, we decided we'd have a feel better party for Mason. And uh, we made it for March for National CP Awareness Month. And it was a great time. Lots of people there, 10 bands. The whole Minnesota metal scene came together. It was beautiful, right? We went into the next season, 2019. Mason won the best show of the year for his show in 2018 in January. And 15 days later, he crashed the Reddit, the United States news server. And we did interviews with National Agency, who is the news server for Ireland and the UK. On February 8th, I woke up to Mason Mefal Fest being front page of Ireland and UK news. The UK birthplace of metal, declaring Mason Mefal Fest the first special needs metal festival.
That's awesome.
Yep,
that is amazing.
That same day, February 8th, is the day I talked to the producer for 60-second docu-series, Mason's documentary. We talked stereotypes about special needs and metal family, and they came out and did a documentary about Mason's show in 2019. That was released in May. Right now it's coming up on 5 million views on Facebook. And one of the many times Mason has gone global in the last 3 years.
Man, now I know that you guys have had some difficulty getting some traction here in the States as far as getting people, getting some awareness about what you guys are doing and what exactly you want to get done. I know you guys have really run the gamut as far as news agencies here. Are things getting any better in that aspect? I know, like, it's been rough for you guys.
No. If you think about it, February 7th, when Mason crashed Reddit, that is the entire news server for the United States. 32,000 news journalists seen Mason's article and chose not to write or say anything about it, right? That crashing Reddit doesn't happen every day.
No,
it's a very seldom thing that ever happens. So that's why everyone else reached out to me, but not anybody in the news. Mason has trended 6 times higher than the story that crashed Reddit. 6 times higher than the story that crashed it. And not one journalist is willing to talk about us. Mason basically just started June 1st in Italy, the Art and Music Olympics.
Wow.
They are going on right now as we speak. We have shows going on all over the world right now. Right? There's over 431 shows that we're sponsoring this year. And our party started June 1st in Italy. June 4th, it was in Melbourne, Australia, with some doom metal. And it's in 18 countries and 42 states currently. So we're getting the word out with the news or not. Because that's
this is the whole ideal behind Grassroots, man. You guys have been pounding the pavement and doing what you guys had to do. I mean, I know, Rick, that you got to be exhausted, and I know that, like, there's been some how do I put this? There's been rumors that have circulated. There's been things that have been said. People guessing about you as a father. What is your take from all that, man? I mean, because I can't imagine as a father, as a dad, that stuff coming at me and me like maintaining my composure as well as you do.
You know, it's not easy for anyone, brother. I mean, that's bottom line, right? When you try so hard and people just downplay you and, disrespect you a lot of times. I've been called greedy so many times that it infuriates me because I've never made a dime doing this in almost 4 years. This is all because something incredible happened to us boys, and I'm trying to use it to help good people, right? And that was our reason for coming up with the Art and Music Olympics, because When you have family from all over the world reaching out to you every day, you start thinking, what are we going to do with this movement, right? If we're going to have a movement, we should have something that is created by this movement, and that's where we're at.
I mean, as far as, can you take us back a little bit earlier before you guys got started on going to shows? What made you realize? I mean, I have a 3-year-old now, so what made you realize that Mason was into metal? Like, what was your first donate? Like, what was that moment like?
You know what? That was me coming home from a long day at work.
I heard it.
Having a mom just frazzled from taking care of her special needs son, right? So I sent her shopping, get groceries, and after about an hour of it, I couldn't take it anymore. So I put him in his, I'm not going to say stroller, but kind of swing, and put him in front of the TV and popped in Metallica, Binge and Splurge, and I walked away to do the dishes, right? Because there's no point, right? Um, After about the third song, I realized Mason was no longer crying anymore, and he had fallen asleep. First time he'd ever fallen asleep to anything other than being walked around the house was Metallica, Bench and Splurge.
That's awesome. And like, as he grew older, like, does he have a taste of certain metal that maybe you don't get into, or is there certain bands that you guys don't see eye to eye on?
There's all kinds of them. I'm a huge Megadeth fan, right? Mason loves Megadeth, but not like I do, right? I went to school with David Ellison, right? My first show was David Ellison in seventh grade, and I was in fifth grade, right? That's how far back I go in metal. Mason loves pretty much all music, right? His two favorite instruments are the piano and the acoustic guitar because they have so much sound to them.
Right.
But there's no metal family walking up and talking to him like when we go to a metal show. That's why Mason loves metal so much. Is when he goes to a show, our family flock him. Right, it's been that way since day one. Our first show was Rage Against the Machine in 2008.
And
Minneapolis Target.
there's always been that like stigma around metalheads about being mean or angry people or nasty people, and it really is quite opposite. You guys experience that all the time.
Mason has inspired a billion people worldwide, right? That I'm the exception to that rule. I mean that we would prove all that wrong, right? They come up to Mason everywhere. Our first show, 2008, Rage Against the Machine, Target Center, surrounded by police SWAT on horses, just like um, you know, Bulls on Parade. It was real life for me. I've never seen that ever in my life.
Wow.
But inside, Metal Family were opening doors for Mason. They were making holes in the hallways for him. They were coming up and talking to him. Um, Mason made it to the front row that very first concert that we went to. And Mason was in 2008. He was like 13 years old, right? So he was just a little guy, and he's at Rage Against the Machine front row. So Mason kind of started out like that.
That's awesome.
It just kind of grew. I mean that's what made it so special for us, right? I mean, we can listen to music at home, but you don't have family coming up and asking
That's
how
right.
you're doing, saying thank you for being here, right? Because that's what our family does every time I've taken them to a show. That's
Now,
why.
talking about that, I mean, we you and I talked a little bit before we came live. As far as 2 years ago, you did 40 states, 40 out of the 50 states, right?
Yeah.
And you said you had people. It didn't matter what state you were in.
No. We started here. We went to Rock Fest, then Rock USA. Mason was invited to have Heavy and Punk Montreal up in Canada. Um, we went all the way around the United States, 40 states, and in every state, family came up and told Mason he was a hero and a legend, and Mason would just smile. Oh, it made his day, right? But it's so weird, right? Because we're just like quiet guys over here, and all of a sudden we're like, "Oh, Mason, you're a big timer." But that's the way he always had it planned. So
And how long did it take you guys to do the 40 states?
We were on the road 66 days. 66 days.
Wow.
66 days and 24,000 miles, just Mason and me.
So you guys did, that's relatively quick. I mean, for 40 states.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
You guys were moving.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We had a good time. We were up in Montreal and we got a call from Mason's sister down in Florida. And she had just lost a friend of hers to suicide. Right?
Wow.
So Mason and I decided she kind of needed us. So we diverted our plan to Florida to go be with her for a week. And, you got to talk about it, right? Because if us adults don't talk about it, kids aren't ever going to talk about it.
Yeah. Now, here's my question. Going down to, I mean, I've personally worked with students with palsy, and I know that as far as the nonverbal, there's just this mental break that people sometimes have, this block that people have, that think that, well, if he's nonverbal, then he can't communicate. But that's so far wrong.
Yeah.
Like,
Mason communicates every day.
Tell us a little bit about like the communication that goes on between you and him, and like how that comes into play.
Yeah, Mason and I, we communicate every day, right? I'll tend to say things to Mason and maybe change one word in the sentence to see how he reacts to that, and he'll bust me every time. Right? He might not know a billion people, understand that a billion people love him, but he understands a lot of people love him, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's no grasp there, but I myself have a hard time grasping that sometimes, right? Yeah. So I don't really think that that's all that different. For Mason and me, we wrote about this in Mason's book chapter. Metal music became a reason to communicate, right? We would when we sent Mason to school, the people at school knew what Mason did that weekend by what shirt he was wearing, by what concert shirt he was wearing, right? So they knew exactly. They didn't even have to ask him, and they knew what Mason did that weekend, right? Stuff like that, right? You go to a doctor appointment, and they tell you you're going to need a 16-hour back surgery, right? What do? You talk about music and the good times. Because
right.
Those are the things that are going to get you through those tough times, right? So it's a different way of communicating, right? Mason, he's really in the grooves, right? He's the groove guy. There is nothing that Mason loves more than a good, solid drum groove, right? That's just how he is.
Now, who would Mason's favorite bands be?
Oh, Metallica will always be Mason's favorite. There's no doubt in my mind.
It still goes back to Metallica.
Yeah, it does. I mean, their music was so patterned, right? It was a pattern, that 4x4 pattern that they stuck to, right? Mason picked up on that pattern. It would bring him from a state of crying and just unhappiness back to a center point, right? That's why he would fall asleep listening to it, because it took all that other things away. I would, when Mason was little, I would have asked psychologists, am I damaging my son letting him listen to Metallica? You know what every psychologist ever told me? If Mason likes it, you do it. It was that simple.
You got some comments coming up. It looks like could be from your daughter. Well, maybe not. Go, Dad, you are rad. Aussie loves and hugs to you.
A sister of ours in Australia, brother.
So,
sister in Australia, check it in.
I know, honestly, for me and probably for you and so many other fellow metalheads, that metal is a form of therapy, and I'm sure that Mason's got that side of it too. When you're having a bad day, you're feeling rough or whatever the case may be, nothing heals it better than music.
It relaxes you, it puts you in the mood that you want to be in. Most certainly. He's listening away to us. Like, what are these guys talking about over here? What
are some of the hardships, some of the difficulties that you guys have had to endure? I know that I know certain arenas are better than other arenas as far as being equipped to uh, be handicapped accessible, things like that. What are some of the big roadblocks that you guys come up against?
You know, um, let's say we went to Chicago Open Air, and they had it at a soccer field. I can't think of the name of it right now, but it took me 4 hours to get Mason into that stadium.
Jeez.
4 hours to get into that stadium, not counting line time, being in lines, because there was no way to get him down to the main floor. I ended up finding a brother that was watching the door for the dressing room hallway, and he let us pass through there, right? And he told me that when we come back the next day and the next day for the show, to come right to him, right? Because he would get us to the main floor and will save us from all that time, right? So this big 4 hour problem getting in there turned out to be the best thing ever, right? Because it's all about attitude, right? So that's how we look at things like that, Mason and I. There's a lot of venues that have old service elevators in the back of the place, right? There's a couple of those in our town right now that if I want to take Mason to a show, uh, I bet I'm going to be prepared for a half an hour wait for somebody to go back to get freed up, right? To go back and get us up in the elevator and bring us up. I mean, that's just what it is. When we talked about it already, there really is never any elevator except for one that goes down all the way down to the bottom. When we seen Metallica out at Chase Stadium, that's a brand new stadium. It took us an hour to find the elevator, but once we found the elevator, we were down on the main floor within 20 minutes.
That's awesome. I mean, it gets frustrating because here we are in 2022, and
Oh,
we're supposed to be more intelligent and more acceptive to the trials that maybe the disabled or handicapped or whatever the case might be. But some of these places still have yet to wake up and kind of get with the current times.
no. And what I've learned through all of this is that it is much worse in other countries, right? Like Italy, they have no. Um, I've got so many disabled friends, special needs families that we know in Italy, and they just tell me how difficult it is to get around for them in chairs,
That's awful.
and and you're right. In this day and age, why is that, right? Why is that? We know what it takes to make things right,
Yeah,
but it's all cost, right? I mean, I'm not an idiot to think that it's free, it's cheap to do, but
right,
eventually you got to do something to encourage others and bring people back out, right?
Matt. So, what's in the near future for you guys? You guys have any show plans? Anything coming up?
Um, for us personally, we've been invited to a local show here in town, July 30th, that we're probably going to go check out. Some big fans of Mason are playing over there. But right now, we're just kind of zeroing in on this year's festival. I mean, we started at June 1st. It's going through World Peace Weekend. All bands have to do is send us their poster. Preferably, they maybe put a Mason Metal Fest logo on it, right? Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all those posters, and I know the journalist who I'm going to give it to, and he'll make this thing go global again, right? Because that's how we're going to get the awareness. The
Yeah,
contacts that I have made with journalists are solid because they're metal family, right? But they want things to have happened before they write about them, right?
yeah.
Or they would have wrote about our festival in 2020. Mason had 1,178 bands playing this show that I canceled. Over 100 shows Dad canceled in 2020. So our goal was to do a bigger show than that this year.
Now,
Now,
have you applied for maybe a 501c or anything to take this as maybe make the next step in the nonprofit kind of
yeah, because
path?
once I do that, I've got a bunch of other problems, right?
I
And
hear you.
and until I make a dime, it ain't worth my trouble or hassle. It'll
I hear you.
cost me even more money to do anything. So no, I'm not interested.
And now you had mentioned you guys writing a chapter. Are you guys writing a book currently?
Not a book, but last year we wrote with a psychologist. We were one of I want to say there was 10 stories in the book. One of them was a Mason story, and that was published through Medical Journal.
Oh,
And
that's awesome. That's
I would
incredible.
imagine there will be a bunch more of them as I'm talking to people. But with Mason, one of the things that happened after Mason crashed Reddit, the day after, LA movie producer and director reached out to us, and we talked for many hours about what we wanted to do, and they've been following ever since. They document everything I say on Facebook, right? Because they want a full journal of what has happened to us boys when they go to make Mason's movie, which will come eventually. Because not every day do you start the Art Music Olympics. I mean,
No.
this is a world's first, right? You would think everybody in this country, everybody on this planet will be talking about it eventually, right? It's never
And I
been.
mean, you juggle all this while maintaining a full-time job on the as well. I don't know. I don't know how you do it as a father, man. I have so much respect for you and so much respect for Mason. I don't know how you find enough hours in the day to do what you do.
We make the days longer. You know how that is. Mason's not a great sleeper, right? So what I tell his sleep doctor that I've known for 20 years, uh, I've had enough time to unite our planet twice in the time that Mason hasn't slept in the last 4 years.
Wow,
That's where I find that time.
man.
But that's fun. We have fun. It's great when the bands are reaching out. I was a little discouraged there for a while because with COVID and everything going on, it's
Yeah,
been really brutal for bands, and I really get that, right? But I'm trying to help them. They know that, they see that, right? So, as this thing starts picking up and our family starts waking up again, we're going to be one steamrolling movement again, right? And that's when things are going to happen. When Mason Metal Fest and our Olympics are talked about by 32,000 journalists in this country, what is that going to do to metal family? What is that going to do to special needs in this country, right? Worldwide, worldwide.
absolutely. I mean,
Because it's not just us here, metal family here in this country that need this movement, right? It's all I've talked to brothers in every country on our planet, and
that is
they're all the
incredible.
same boat as we are. We're all metal family. We all think and believe pretty much the same values and codes, right?
And
I,
one thing that I'm guilty of, and I think we all do, we call each other brother. And I mean, it really is a term of endearment that goes amongst all of us.
it's,
Is
it, it shows respect. It
yeah.
shows respect. That's why we do it. Shows
And
respect.
I mean, as far as the overall goal for Mason Metal Fest, what would you say the pinnacle of everything would be?
But it will be to start our art music Olympics for special needs and not artists to musicians, right? In all communities, all countries, right? Mason knows family in all countries, so it's just a matter of getting it organized, right? And that's going to take time because communication. I mean, Facebook's great for getting the message out, but not an exact message, right?
Yeah,
That's where Facebook will trip you up every time. But when when Mason's journalist buddy writes about this, right? And he will. He's the journalist that put Mason everywhere, right? The national agency journalist. I talk to him maybe once every month, once every other month, just letting him know how things are going. He always gets back to me because he cares about this story, right? Um, I'm gonna be maybe telling him pretty soon that we got this thing going now. He is going to have to write about this, and once they do, they will all write about this, right? Our world needs some positive and some good in it.
that's absolutely true. I
Right?
mean, it's ridiculous all the things we bicker and argue and fight about, but when we can get together on the things that matter is what really makes the difference.
We have a saying, Mason and I. We let our similarities unite us, and not our differences divide us.
That's it.
Right?
That's the
Right?
way it should be. Now, my last question for you, Rick,
Yeah.
because we're wrapping up pretty soon, is he's met so many world famous musicians. I know that he had his time with Metallica. Could you tell us a couple of those stories and like some of the people that he's met?
We were talking about Chicago Open Air just a little bit ago when we were backstage. Um, the drum tech for Ministry was working at the drum shop that my daughter and I went to, right? So there he was backstage putting Ministry's gear together. He introduced us to Caesar Soto, right?
Oh wow.
Caesar is one cool dude, right? He's a great dad, right? And he um, after that experience, he's seen that Mason and I were in the emergency room, and he actually messaged me to see how Mason was doing and
Wow.
make sure we were doing okay, right? When Mason's video came out, Sir Quinn messaged me, right? Tony messaged me, Caesar
Wow.
messaged me. Um, I like last week, Sir Quinn messaged me. He says, "What size shirt is Mason?" So Mason's got some special shirts coming from Sir Quinn from Ministry in the next few days here, right? When we were on that road trip, we were in Charleston. We met the original guitarist for Morbid Angel.
Oh
He
wow.
he played a Pantera set, Morbid Angel set, Metallica set, metal set, 3 feet in front of Mason and I, right? Just a cool guy, right? He's a dad, and now he's a granddad, right? So he's all about the dad story, right? He's all about the metal. He's all about the Mason. So I mean, that was cool. One of the brothers that reached out um, knows Foreigner, and they had read Mason's first article, 500 bands in 365 days, and waited 3 years to meet Mason. When he, when the guitarist met Mason, he gave him the biggest hug I've ever seen anybody give Mason, right? And he looks up at me and he says, uh, I'll come play your show as long as you don't do it in September. That tells me one thing. His family is a farming family, and he's going back home to harvest crops in the fall time, right? Because that's what a lot of these guys do. David Ellison, Megadeth, they never toured during the fall time because it was harvest season.
Yeah.
That, yeah. I want to say who else have we met? Um,
And these are guys that are just going above and beyond. They're not just making an appearance or
no, no.
saying hi one time. These guys are checking on you guys
Yeah,
frequently, and
yeah.
that's awesome.
Mason's 21st birthday was the night that we shot the pictures for his first article. That was a helmet show. And even though the big Star and Tribune in Minneapolis couldn't get Mason to meet the band, Mason took care of that after the show. We we sat and we hung out with Paige Hamilton for well over an hour, just talking about music and special needs and that kind of thing is really cool.
Man, now is there any way that people watching could keep connected to you guys so that they can see what you guys are up to next, or what how to follow your story? Is there a good way to go about doing that?
I tell people if they've never really heard of us, the best way is just type in Mason McDeid, right, in Google, because you'll see articles. You'll see the Rolling Stone article that Mason is in Brazil, right? But most people don't realize Mason is on the Rolling Stone cover in Brazil. It's one of the
Wow.
it's one of the many stories that have been written about Mason that will come here in the United States. Think about that. Mason on the cover of the Rolling Stone in the United States, sitting at every grocery aisle. What
That'd
will
be
that
awesome.
what will that do for special needs and metal families?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
That's the larger movement that I'm talking about, right? I mean, we're just doing shows, right? What's 400 or 500 shows? That's the movement. That's the powerful thing. That's how we start our Olympics and keep our movement going. 40 years from that's Mason's legacy.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
all. No, nobody's helping artists and musicians, man. They haven't since the '70s, right? I mean, that's just
right.
that. I remember the day when that happened, right? So it's time we start doing that kind of thing because we got to start changing our communities, right? We got to start giving our children some hope again.
So some So we have a couple of viewers that are just now tuning in, but we'll be able to catch this on the replay. These guys are from Mason Mefal Fest, the first special needs
Metal Festival.
metal festival, which is awesome. I've been talking to Rick for a couple of years now since everything started going viral. And it's just an amazing story. These guys have been to how many shows did you say again, Rick?
We have seen 1,404 bands.
Jeez, man. That is so awesome. I'm very envious of that number.
You listen to this one. Mason had 1,400. Well, Mason has seen 1,404 bands play, right? Mason had 1,278 bands that were going to play for him that I canceled.
Wow, yeah.
I mean, that's a record right there, right?
Yeah, heck yeah. COVID kind of ran us through that gamut, but I think we're coming back now. I think we're starting to get on solid ground once again.
And in the last 2 months, especially this last month, I have noticed attention going way up for what we're doing. So, and I'm seeing that as I'm getting out in venues and seeing crowds again, right? So it's coming back. It's coming back.
And here's just a little interesting tidbit that you might find interesting, Rick. The guy who sponsors my show, Rosenfeld Dental Associates, David Rosenfeld, was signed on to be one of those bands during COVID. He's a guitar player for a band called Tonal Crush.
Oh, sure.
They were set up to play that year when everything got canceled. But I know that he's going to be more than ready to jump back on that as well.
We're talking to a lot of brothers that, of those 1,278, that's a lot of guys, right?
Absolutely.
They might not be all in the same band, right? But they've moved on to other bands.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's a family thing. And that's kind of how Mason and I look at it, right? It's family chapter shows. It's shows that our family are doing that we can support. Because when these bands send their poster in, chances are we know a lot of family where they're at, wherever they are, which is really beautiful, man. It's really cool.
Rick Mason, thank you so much for hanging with us tonight. Great talking to you. Great catching up. I'm sure you'll be back on before once everything starts moving again. We'll be pushing out this Mason Fest once again, man. I'm really, really excited to be part of this movement.
Always great seeing you, brother. And we thank you for your time.
So you guys have a great rest of your week, and we'll catch up again soon.
Thank you, bud.
Have a great night.
You too, man.
All right, guys. So that was Richard McDeid and Mason McDeid from Mason Mefal Fest. Really, really great to catch up with them, guys. We had them on quite a few times during the podcast years. I mean, we're just now on our first year of this streamcast. Kind of looking forward to seeing what goes on, man. Like we were saying, things kind of got out of control with COVID. A lot of shows got canceled. A lot of things happened. But the other thing, once again, that I want to remind you guys of is Friday night, $10 to get in. Bar 13, the Rock and Roll Union Summer Bash. We stopped doing as many shows as we once were, but the ones that we're doing are meaningful. So we got the Rock and Roll Union Summer Bash coming up, Bar 13, this coming Friday night, meaning the day after tomorrow. Tickets are only $10 for 4 amazing bands. You can't beat it. And then tickets are still on sale for Sick Vicky at the Union Firehouse in September. That'll be our next event after this one. So just a lot of great stuff going on. And just trying to next week, I won't be doing a full show, but I'll be doing a live from Maryland video. Going to, as many of you guys might know, I am a hardcore Parrot Head. I love Jimmy Buffett. This is going to be my 26th show on Tuesday. So I'll do a little live from the parking lot, live from the venue, and really excited to look forward to it. The venue that I'm going to, you guys all are, well, a lot of you are very well familiar with, is Meriwether Post Pavilion out there in Columbia, Maryland, the home of M3. I didn't get the chance to go to M3 this year, but I'll be going down there for Buffett. Looking forward to that. Hopefully all you guys are enjoying this summer. And just remember, until next time, don't just leave it better. Have a great week, guys.